The Presbyterian Moderator has admitted that times are changing as he oversaw the closure of Fortwilliam and Macrory Church in North Belfast. The Antrim Road place of worship held its final Sunday morning service yesterday, with the congregation set to merge with Whitehouse Presbyterian a few miles away, bringing well over a century of history to a close. RT Rev Dr Charles McMullen said it was time for the church as a whole to look forward, not back. Times are changing and we can't deny that, he said. But I have visited so many lively, outgoing churches as moderator and that has given me encouragement. There are always trends and demographic shifts, and sadly Fortwilliam and Macrory has succumbed to that. But if you look at my own church, West Church in Bangor, which was only founded in 1961, we now have 1,100 families attached. Where one tree is sadly withering, another is bearing fruit. For 133 years the church has stood an imposing welcome to Presbyterians in the wider community of the area. Several hundred people turned out for the final morning of worship. For many it was a pleasant return to say farewell in the autumn sunshine, but for many more it was a sad occasion as the doors finally closed on a building that has been so much a part of their lives. Among those attending were two former Lord Mayors of Belfast, Sinn Féin's Tom Hartley and the SDLP's Nicola Mallon. It was a far cry from the dwindling congregation of 30 to 40 regular attenders. Words don't come easy, its minister, Rev Ken Doherty, said. This is the end of an era and there is a collective sadness, but we must remember the life of the congregation will continue. At its peak, Fortwilliam and Macrory welcomed over 600 to services every Sunday. It counts former BBC political correspondent John Cole and former Lord Chief Justice Brian Hutton as past members of the congregation. Lord Hutton also served many years as a Sunday school teacher. But there was one story in particular that stood out in the memory of church elder John McDowell. John Gibson will be remembered by many, he said. He served as the church committee building convener for many years. He was a diabetic and had raised funds for the UK Diabetes Association, so much that in October 1993 the charity announced he was to be the first recipient of a new award. We were all thrilled for him. That same day he was murdered by the IRA as he worked for Henry Brothers and Mag Arafelt, and they had a security forces contract. He was such a big loss to the community. It was that period of political and religious change during the Troubles that started the decline. Young families moved to the outskirts of Belfast and finally we reached our current situation. My life has revolved around this church since 1941 and I will shed a tear as the doors close, but I'll also rejoice in the fellowship we've had. Claire Hughes is a current church elder. The story I'm told is that my great-aunt decided to get married here as the steps at the front would look good in a wedding photograph, and we've never left, she said. I've grown up in this church and there's a great sadness. But I suppose, when you're made an elder age just 28, alarm bells should have been ringing. Brian Downey and his son Matthew were revisiting Fortwilliam and Macrory to say farewell, and his family is typical of the demographic shift that saw numbers in the congregation fall in recent years. I was originally a member of Macrory until it closed 12 years ago, so I've been through an amalgamation before, Brian said. We found a new home here, but we now live in Dundonald and it makes sense for us to go to church there. This is a beautiful place and it's sad to see it go. Having served as clerk of session for 25 years and been a member of the congregation for all her adult life, Muriel Torrens is feeling the closure more than most. I've been a part of this church since I was 11. It was 1952 when my family came to live in the prefabs at Cave Hill, she said. It's heartbreaking. Looking back, previous ministers always wished young couples well as they set off to new lives in Glengormley or Ballyclare, encouraging them to join with churches in their new communities. No one saw a day like this coming. Church property convener Malcolm Kane has seen the building in good times and bad. I came here in 1952 and the place was thriving. But the community has changed, he said. Some weeks there are as few as 35 people attending, so we had to think practically. Emotions could no longer outweigh common sense. The building is old and it's very difficult to carry out essential maintenance, and very costly. Belfast Telegraph.